This was a long day. Not every day is this long, but this day had extra hours just wedged into the middle of the day. I was supposed to just have a nice leisurely flight from San Diego to Chicago, Chicago to LaGuardia, New York. Easy, right? Well, we landed in Des Moines. Des Moines is not where I wanted to go. But I'm here now. We're in New York. I can lean back, look out the window. There's the Empire State. Actually, that's the Chrysler Building. There's the Empire State Building for episode 184 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast about pinball. This is my commentary about pinball and the things that happen in and around the pinball community. And I am a man out of quarters. Literally went coast to coast today. We do that sometimes in this show. I woke up in beautiful San Diego and I will go to sleep here in, I don't know if I could say beautiful exactly, but in very urban, rough and tough Long Island City, New York. I've done many shows here, and I've looked out this window at Manhattan before. So, anyway, thank you for listening. Appreciate you being here. I had a delay. We had weather problems in Chicago, so I landed in Iowa to refuel, and by the time I got to Chicago, it was just in time for me to walk off my plane and watch my plane to New York pull away from the gate out the window. That happened. Like, literally, I was probably 5 minutes late to miss my flight, so had to go standby, and luckily I made it on a later flight here to New York. So it is well past midnight here as we come to you, not live from New York City on now August 11th, early morning, wee hours of the morning, August 11th, 2015. Thanks for joining. There's a bit of a hangover, I feel like, in the pinball community, listening to some other podcasts today on my flight, listening to friends of mine talk and seeing people's social media posts. Pinburg and Replay FX is still sort of, hanging over the top of everybody. And me too. It was an amazing event. I think it's one of those events that will have reverberations around the community and the hobby. And I think that those of us who saw Replay FX number one will be kind of talking about how the second year is so much bigger and so many more people, because it was quite the launching point. And we'll get into some of that and some of the things we saw at Replay FX here on 184 and some other news and notes as we go. So let's start it off with some quick little hits here.
5 fast thoughts.
This isn't one of my fast thoughts, but I'm going to preface my fast thoughts with this quick little note. I'm leaving the air conditioning running, so if you can hear that, I apologize, but it's, summertime in the city, and we need some AC going on. So, fast thought number one, it's kind of what I said before, Pinburg in Replay FX, but specifically Pinburg for this fast thought, definitely my favorite competitive pinball event ever. And I'm hearing many people say that it was the most fun they've ever had playing competitive pinball, maybe just playing pinball at all. There is a flow and a vibe and a feel that is unmatched that I have seen that Pinburg has. And when you get up to the number of 650 competitors, it's even different and better and cool, and getting to play in groups with great players and getting to play in groups with people who aren't great players, and then everybody in between is a lot of fun. And there's a lot of things that are hard to describe about your groups at Pinburg, like how the feel of the group might affect the way you play and how you need to overcome that, but sometimes you can't because you're not that good. I digress. Fast thought number two. The European players and the scene in general, I think, needs more coverage. And I know this is coast-to-coast pinball, sort of implying that I talk about the stuff between the West and the East Coast of the United States, or North America, as it may be. But I have had some cool people in different parts of Europe and Australia also, and not so much Asia. I have not met many people from Asia, although I know we have some listeners in Japan. But I've had some people from Europe specifically reach out and want to contribute, and do more for the show or help me do more for European coverage, and I welcome that, and I will be eventually replying to emails, and we'll get into that because I think that's a great idea. And when you get to a place like Pinburg and you're paired up with lots of Europeans throughout the day, you sort of get the feeling that, oh yeah, they got it going on over there. So absolutely. Fast thought number 3, the Arcade Expo, which happened this past January out at the Museum of Pinball in Banning, California, they will be having a second event. Their second event is actually not going to be just a pinball-focused event. It will be a Twin Galaxies entertainment festival. Twin Galaxies being the famous website community targeting video games, vintage video games. I won't pretend I'm an expert on that, but the Twin Galaxies Arcade and Esports Event Center is at the Museum of Pinball, if that makes sense. So check out arcadeexpo.com. The dates are October 2nd through the 4th. There are, I think there's packages to get, special stuff and VIP entrance things going on already. Billy Mitchell, Walter Day, more guests to be announced. So I met some of the fine people from the Arcade Expo, and they kind of told me what they were doing, and I said, but is all the pinball still going to be opened and ready to play? And they said, oh yeah, of course. So I'm very excited, and I can't wait to be out there. So I hope to make it for at least a day in October, and then again in January when they get back to doing a second Arcade Expo official event. So that's good stuff. In my last fast thought, just because it's been sort of haunting me for the past few weeks, the J-pop thread on Pinside. The last time I looked, and I was trying to pull it up right now as I talk, the last time I looked, it had over, I'm going to give you a real number for right now. I think they've changed the name of it to his full name, John Papaduke Update Thread. Right now, it has 771 replies to that thread that I have not read. That's my little green button on Pinside on that thread is 771. I'm scared to go back in. I don't know what is there waiting for me. I can't do it right now. I will get to it because there's probably something to talk about in there. So when I get really desperate around episode 192 or something like that, maybe I will have gone in and read whatever has gone on in the past 771 posts since I last looked at that. But as of right now, I cannot bring myself to do it. Those are my 5 fast thoughts. We're only like 7 or 8 minutes into the show, and so whoever's criticizing my 5 fast thoughts for not being that fast, how dare you? First of all, how dare you?
Trip reports.
All right. So this is sort of trip report, and it's kind of also forum static, I guess, too.
Forum static.
Fine there. Okay, we got all our bases are covered. So I have to go back to Replay FX because I didn't really touch on much. Don't touch on much. I don't know. I didn't touch on much from the rest of the show other than Pinburg on previous shows, I believe. So I need to talk about The Hobbit. I had not played The Hobbit. I think I played a ball of it in Texas. And at the time, I thought, okay, the artwork looks better, but this game is still too floaty and blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't really blown away. I was happy with the artwork, still didn't get the feel that game was going to be something that interested me greatly, other than being beautiful and having this LCD screen that's showing off all this cool stuff. But it still wasn't really lighting me up as like a shooter, as they would say. Like, how does it shoot? Well, I'm here to tell you that playing The Hobbit in the Pinball Star Amusements booth, little plug for Joe there, at Replay FX, kind of blew me away because it felt like a different game. There was clearly more going on with the sound, with the lighting effects, with scoring. It was not leveled better, but it was steeper, so it just had a better feel to the game. Everything seemed snappy. I could hit the shots. The pop-up little creatures that are popping up out of the playfield were much more integrated into the gameplay. I believe there was better lighting effects. I want to say there was lighting coming from underneath those pop-up characters, which was really cool. And I was kind of shocked and blown away. And I kept telling everybody, like, I'm really impressed by this. And then people would go over and play it and come back, and I'd see them later, and I'd say, so what do you think? And they'd be like, yeah, that's really good. So all this time we've been waiting on The Hobbit, because let's be honest, we're well past. I mean, this time last year, people were like, okay, in just a few months, there's going to be shipping The Hobbit, and here we are into August with no games. All this time has definitely yielded results. You know, it's one thing when I think Wizard of Oz got drawn out a long time and we didn't see all these changes happening. It was more of, got to get the production up and going, got to get this company building pinball machines. With The Hobbit, we saw some major shifts and changes in both layout, features, and artwork. And it's for the better. I mean, I think that if you fast forward our lives 5 to 10 years from now and you say to Jack at that point, like, aren't you glad you didn't release what you showed at Expo 2014? He'll breathe a sigh of relief and go, oh my gosh. Because I really do believe, with the news that's been coming out of New Jersey here in the last few days, that The Hobbit has a chance to be sort of the landmark Jersey Jack game. All right, maybe I'm overstating it, maybe that's some hyperbole, but it really, in just the few balls that I've played on it, really did connect with me. It really felt great. It's beautiful. I know they're gonna dial the rules in. I trust in Keith Johnson. I think we should all trust in Keith Johnson. He's definitely one of the few people on the planet that can write the rules for that game in the situation it's in and do it well. I think that's proven track record. It needs to be deep. It's a big game. It's an epic theme. It needs to have this grandiose rule set to go with this grandiose art package, with this grandiose game, with a dragon head and 2 big deep ramps and things popping up over the playfield. I'm starting to get it now, because I think the game's starting to get there now. And that's good stuff. I was really offline, not on my podcast here where I talk about stuff. I was really hearing a lot of, like, you know, rumors about Jersey Jack Pinball and starting to worry a little bit, because, you know, people talk and you can't tell what's real and what's just people having a vendetta or people wanting someone to fall in their face. But I was hearing lots of stuff about just the business, and, you know, you hear about parts and things being paid for, and it's hard to decipher what's true and what's not. But we got a little bit of news out of Jersey Jack Pinball this week about a new investor. And I think this clears up a lot of the things that were going on behind the scenes that were probably causing some of these stories to leak out about, you know, things being unstable, about, you know, invoices being owed, etc. And this is all just stuff I've heard and haven't felt the need to come on the show and talk about, because I didn't know. I don't know. I try not to deal in third-hand stories here. Sometimes I might not be able to give you a source, but I will always try and, you know, make sure what I tell you is you know, firmly rooted in facts. So, August 7th, press release, Lakewood, New Jersey. Jersey Jack Pinball LLC, the New Jersey-based award-winning pinball manufacturer. Which awards did they win? I'm just curious. I don't know the answer to that. An innovator is pleased to announce a significant investment led by ThinkLab Ventures, the family office of Time 100 honoree and Reader's Digest America's Best Boss, Leonard, is it Abess, and joined by Tudor Investment Corp. I don't know what all this means. Basically, some rich people have injected money into Jersey Jack Pinball Company. Lead investor Leonard Abess says, I have been a pinball fan my entire life. In Jersey Jack Pinball, I saw a company that has both the creative vision and technical abilities to renew and reinvigorate the industry. I have known Jack Guarnieri for many years and delighted in watching him develop the ultimate pinball game to date, The Wizard of Oz. Co-investor Andrew Paul said, I am pleased to be associated with Jersey Jack Pinball. I've been a pinball fan since my teens and Wizard of Oz, etc., etc., etc. So this, in a way, sort of all goes back to the greater theme that we talk about when we talk about the manufacturers of these games we love. Building pinball machines is hard to do. You know, Jersey Jack Pinball has been around, 4 to 5 years? Something like that, 5-ish years. And they've shipped now, I don't know, upwards of 2,000 games, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 games. And Game 2 is greatly delayed, and I think it's been an expensive proposition for them to go in and make some of these changes. Jack said that during his seminar at the Replay FX, is that they spent a lot of money making changes. I think more intellectual property opened up to them that they've been able to integrate into the game, which I think will be a good thing. The timeline that they have said now, this is the current timeline as of August 11th, is hopefully Hobbit is being produced by the end of September, and they'd be announcing Game 3 by the end of the year. So a lot of people expected an Expo release. I think I still kind of expect an Expo release, because I know how companies are when the trade show comes around the corner. You want to have something to talk about. You want to create a buzz. You want to capture that moment. You want to have that Lebowski moment, right? And I think if the Lawler game is ready, they're probably going to show it. I think if the Hobbit is still not shipping at all, they run a little risk there. But I think that the company taking on new money is a good thing for everybody, especially people that have money into the game, because that means that they're more stable than they were yesterday. The idea that one man, as smart as he might be, as hardworking as he might be, as into pinball as he might be, like Jack, can just do it all on his own and not go the spooky route of, hey, we're going to build 150 then 300, but go the, hey, we're going to build a couple thousand and then a couple more thousand, can do all that on his own without money. I think that's really tough. I think you'd need to have a lot of personal money into that, and I think Jack has put a lot of personal money, and I think that this just shows that, like lots of businesses, you need an influx of cash to get to that next level. I hope that this is the turning point where we get over the delays, we get over all the whispers about money being an issue, and I hope that this is the moment where the Hobbit gets out and they're selling Wizard of Oz and Hobbit, and then we see Game 3 and they sell a bunch of Game 3s, because I'd love to see Jersey Jack Pinball become a solid company that's turning out a new title every year to 18 months. I don't know, they don't need to sell 2 new games a year. They don't need to sell even a new game a year, but 18 months, get the company dialed into where they're doing that. So it'll be interesting to watch. I know that I've had some emails and some people asking me to talk about the situation with the ELOT lawsuit. I don't even know if that's how you say ELOT, and I am just not prepared to dive into that one yet. I don't know the whole situation other than what I can read on the internet like everybody else. So I don't know if I'm going to dive into that until more is made public and the courts play out, et cetera, et cetera. But this to me is a story about the second largest manufacturer of pinball machines strengthening their business. All right. Also, I think the other big story besides Pinburg at ReplayFX, and besides just ReplayFX being so awesome, but as far as individual games, I think the other story was definitely Highway Pinball having 2 full throttle. I don't know if they're production run games exactly, but I believe that is they're the first production run games. They had them there to play. I waited in a very long line to play. The guy in front of me kept playing over and over. It was actually a very short line that took a long time. This guy in front of me just kept playing and kept playing and kept playing, which, I mean, that's good things, right? So I did get to play some full throttle. I meant to actually have Andrew on the show, and he was busy, and I was busy, and we never did it. We'll have him back on via the interwebs and Skype at some point, hopefully. I was not super jazzed on this theme ever. Never was into the full throttle theme. I thought it was a little bland and a little kind of a safe theme. It's racing motorcycles. Not really my thing, but I can look past that if the game is compelling and fun to play. And I will tell you that it's another game that has sort of taken strides forward, and it seemed to play smoother than it did last time I played it. I would say maybe it's playing too fast. Lots of air balls. I played a couple games and tried to count how many times the pinball was off the playfield and then falling back onto the playfield, and I got to 10 and stopped counting on one ball. I don't know if it's something to do with flipper speed or strength. I don't know if it's geometry. I'm not sure if it's the screen that is embedded into the playfield. Could that be causing these air balls? I don't know. There's some cool shots in this game for sure. There's some shots we haven't really seen before with the cross ramp, or at least just some geometry and shots we haven't seen before. I think that what they're missing in Full Throttle, and it's something that I saw on America's Most Haunted early on, and in America's Most Haunted got better, is you need lots of feedback to the player to really get that full polished feel. It's like when you hit any rollover switch, or when you hit a stand-up target that maybe isn't the main shot. I would liken this to like when you hit a stand-up target in Metallica, when you hit one of the band member stand-up targets. When you're in normal gameplay, it gives you sort of a thud sound. It does something. You can collect those, progress them, but it gives you sort of a sound of like feedback of like that's not the ramp you were aiming for. It gives you that sound, and you know what you did. I would want to be able to close my eyes and listen to somebody play a pinball machine, and if I knew that game well enough, I would want to be able to tell exactly what the ball did every time it hit something. Now, a lot of targets or rollovers might have the same noises, but at least I would say all the outlanes have a certain sound. So if I hear this sound, oh, you just drained left or right. If I hear this other certain sound, you made a ramp, whatever it might be. And I felt, and could be settings, could be the environment, I didn't get a lot of that feedback on Full Throttle. Some of it better than it was, but I didn't get a ton of it. I wasn't immersed. It's kind of like when I've seen some indie movies. Like sometimes you go and you watch a movie or a film, and it's all the little things that you don't really think about consciously that make it feel polished and feel like it's the full-on production. And I have some friends who did some indie movies, and I remember one of the criticisms that they got was that there wasn't a lot of the soundscape stuff added in, like rustling of clothes or footsteps or doors being creaky and when you open, all that little stuff that really creates a world. And I think Full Throttle has got the speed thing down. They've got the flashing shots down. They've got the light show down. They're like really close. I think they need a little bit more polish on that sound feedback to the player. Metallica is such a good game at that, and I don't have my shaker motor on, so I'm not even talking about shaker motor or anything. I'm just talking about sound. The Hobbit, I thought, had a better level of that this time around. And Full Throttle is just a tiny bit short there. Game looks really good. I'm thrown off a little bit. Maybe this is a nitpick, but I noticed it, and it was really bothering me as I was watching people play, and I couldn't figure out what it was, but the armor on the sides of the glass, the metal, the spots where the glass would slide underneath, the side rails, the armor, it's really wide compared to, say, a Stern game or a Williams game. It's much wider, and I think it's gray on the game. I should really look for a picture of one of the games. And it's fine to be different. I have no problem with people doing different things, trying new things. In fact, you should, but it throws me off. And that's not even really to say that you shouldn't do that. It throws me off when I look at it. It's like, I think correct me if I'm wrong, friendly listeners, but I believe it's sort of a matte gray, kind of a dull grade finish in sort of like a thick, like what I would describe as like a 2-inch wide border all the way around. And it feels a little, cheap's not the word, but more like unrefined. That's the word I'm looking for. There's an unrefined feel to that armor that I don't like. Maybe if it was black, that might change my thoughts on it. I do really like the screen in the playfield. I am a big fan of that. However, they had two games there. They had one that had just that simple setup with the screen in the playfield, and then their very thin, awkward to me looking back box with nothing but speakers in it, and the lit up Full Throttle artwork, of course, in the head. But then they had another one with the newly offered, and I say newly in the past year, offered additional screen option where you can add that same screen up into the back box, and so people watching you play can see what's going on the screen as well. And that makes a world of difference. If I'm Highway Pinball, I'd probably make that standard. And I know that's got to cost some extra money, but I just think a pinball machine needs the score on the back box. I really think there's some things, you can go with the weird, thin, plasticky looking back box, but I think pulling the score off of it and only having it on the playfield, I think that's not a good idea for me personally. But as far as the game goes, as far as like the look and the ramp, they've got this crazy cross ramp that just is beautiful to look at in person. I would be scared to death to ever break one, but it looked really good. It played really good. Andrew seemed really proud, which he should be. Sounds like they're building some games. I think we all saw the thread of they shipped games. I don't know how many they actually shipped, but I've said this a bunch of times on the show. Alien is going to be the sink or swim for the long-term highway pinball. That's going to be it. And if they knock Alien out of the park, and they sell a bunch and they ship a great game, they're instantly, like overnight, they are a major player in pinball manufacturing. Speaking of, this is a bit of a forum static here.
Forum static.
So right after Replay FX, Highway Pinball and Arik Lawson, who is the creative director for the Alien game, released a new shot map. And if you haven't seen this, you can find it in the thread, Alien Pinball - official game thread, which is in the Highway Pinball subforum on Pinside. Donate to Pinside. So we got to see what the shot map is now, and it's changed a lot. And I think it looks like a more, again, I'm going to use this word, a more refined game, a little more fleshed out, probably some more just thought going into it. I think anytime you can do additional drafts of something is probably a good thing. I won't read through all of these, but I'll tell you that there's still 4 flippers. There's sort of a mid-left flipper and an upper-right flipper, and that upper-right flipper has multiple shots that it can make now, including a ramp and one of the toys. The inserts look really well thought out. The screen hopefully will integrate into the art really well. I trust that Arik is all over that. But it's really cool to see. And then somebody put a side-by-side down a little farther. Thank you, Solar Value. He put the old layout with the new layout. And the old layout didn't really have inserts, so it looks very sparse. But you can kind of see the geometry change and the way the toys figured out. It's not drastically different, but different enough that I think, I don't know, I'm pretty excited. I'm actually really excited to see how this thing all, turns out. But I would definitely check that out. And I really look forward to getting that reveal. This is going to be one of those really fun reveals, even though we've got the black and white CAD style shot map. But that first time we see Alien Pinball, I think some people are going to be reaching for their wallets, right? So that's pretty exciting. So those were the 2 big kind of games people were talking about at Replay FX. I saw some of the rethemed games. There was some just gorgeous artwork at Replay FX on the rethemed games, and I'm sort of ashamed to say that I didn't get the whole story on what all of them were about. But I would encourage you to go looking at the Replay FX threads, and some of the photos are in there on some of those games. I feel like I'm just playing like constant catch up right now with stories that have gone on since Replay FX or around before, right after. Boutique Pinball, Wrath of Olympus. If you look that up on Pinside, if you go to Game Manufacturers, Boutique Pinball, Wrath of Olympus, Original Custom Pinball Development, it's a pretty long thread, but if you go to post number 1206, yes, the posts are all numbered, there's a pretty interesting post that actually makes something clear to me that I overheard when I don't know if I was supposed to be listening way back at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I was talking with Scott from Riot Pinball, who was on this show some while back. Couldn't tell you what episode, but very cool episode talking about Wrath of Olympus, his designed game that was designed digitally, and then he built real prototypes, and he tried to get to market. He was needed 100 pre-orders to build. It didn't happen, so he refunded money, and we thought the game would never see the light of day again. Well, I overheard Scott talking about more playfields. And of course, what am I going to do? Come here and be like, hey, everybody, Scott's getting some playfields. Why would I do that, right? So, but it was in the back of my head, well, something's clearly still happening. And now we know what that was. So Scott posted a kind of a question and answer and a few paragraphs about what he's been up to with Wrath of Olympus. And in short, what he's done is he had so many parts built up to build the game. He had a certain amount of set parts. And he had some new playfields run by Charlie at Spooky Pinball. And he got some parts made and some cabinets made. And he chose a couple of his early backers, people that tried to get in on the Wrath of Olympus game at the very beginning, and people who really believed in him. And what they did is Scott and these two guys, one of those being our host at Mad Roll and Pinball at the end of the month, Hilton Jones, they built 4 Wrath of Olympus games. So the two guys that are not Scott basically built their own game, like assembled the game by hand with Scott building 2 more games. So there's now a total of 6 Wrath of Olympus in existence, and there's photos in that thread, and I mean, talk about rare of the rare, built side by side with the game designer. It's pretty cool. The thread turns kind of ugly and dumb, if you will, with people getting all bent out of shape about stuff that's nonsensical. People really question the whole, what do you mean you can't get the parts anymore? Because that's kind of the story here, is that Scott contends that trying to build a game and find the parts that a lot of us think are just simple parts, like, oh, I need a single drop target. Easy, right? Well, maybe not so easy. And he says that there are something like 4 parts to Wrath of Olympus that he cannot get in quantity really at all, and he would have to have remanufactured, and that's why when he went and did the bill of materials to price out what it would cost to do a run of Wrath of Olympus, some people questioned, oh, why is it so much? Well, because he had to go out and actually have parts made for the game. Whether, taking an old part and remaking it or building something brand new. There's some stuff that would either have to be completely redone in a big run to make it the scale of materials pricing work, or change the game. So it's an interesting one. It's a project that I really, in the back of my head, I've thought that game was going to get made. I didn't know how, but the layout, the design, the art is all really, really great. I've never had enough time on it to tell you that it's this amazing shooting game, or it's not an amazing shooting game. The times that I've played it, it felt like a tough game with a cool rule set and some really just very forward-thinking ideas that I looked forward to playing. And it's really unfortunate that it looks like, as of now, there isn't any more large runs, or any more runs at all, of Wrath of Olympus. I know that people have held out hope that maybe Stern would swoop in and choose to build Wrath of Olympus. I think if Stern builds that game, they sell a couple hundred. That's my guess. Just based on the buzz the game's got, and you put the marketing and the machine of Stern Pinball behind something like that, you sell a couple hundred. I don't think Stern probably wants to build a wide-body game. I mean, I don't know. It would be very different to what they do. But maybe someday Wrath of Olympus, still comes to light. One nice thing about it is that theme is timeless. Greek mythology and the Greek gods. That's not like of the moment. That's a very cool theme. But anyway, I will get to play this game because Hilton, hosting Mad Roll and Pinball, will have a Wrath of Olympus there. Very excited about that. That's going to be a really fun tournament. Really cool thing. I'm going to have Hilton on the show at some point between now and then to talk up the event. It's for charity, which is one of the main reasons I agreed to do it. The other main reason is Ben Heck agreed to be my partner on team Coast2Coast. We've got t-shirts made for those who are playing in it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Very excited about that. And Wrath of Olympus will be there, and that makes it even sweeter. So just wanted to give a little shout out to Wooly as it's called, and Scott from Riot Pinball, because I think that's pretty cool what they did there. And I don't know, it just shows what some hard work and determination can actually do, because the thought of building that game in 5 days by hand, I don't think I could do it. All right. Even more awesome news in independent companies in pinball, I guess, sort of. This is a weird one because it's really its own thing. Dutch Pinball has sent out a newsletter a few days ago on Bride of Pinbot 2.0 rules complete and promo video. So they sent a promo video out, which is awesome. You need to go watch it. It's hosted on YouTube. If you look for Dutch Pinball on YouTube, you'll find their video that was posted on August 7th. And the rules are now going to be complete. The update's coming. Here's a rundown of what they've added. If you're just joining us here on Coast to Coast Pinball, Dutch Pinball has put together a kit to add a whole new game to the Bride of Pinbot game, because we all love the Bride of Pinbot, the way it looks, the feel of the game. It just had really shallow, kind of easy to get bored with rules, and it did not have a DMD. It was a alphanumeric game, obviously. Well, they have now added a screen to it. It's not a DMD, but it's a LED screen or whatever, and done art and made new rules and added new modes. And there's been some stuff missing, and the initial launch was cool, and I've played it, I liked it, it was awesome, but it felt like it was, very incomplete because there was all these other parts to the game that we wanted to see get fleshed out. Well, now it's here. So they've added in a story mode. Pinbot is bored on the planet, and his bride, who humanity gifted him in 1990, has run out of battery power. So Pinbot commands you to load up the good old space shuttle with new batteries and deliver them to planet Pinbot. That's multi-ball 1. Then you unload and insert the batteries and activate the bride, multi-ball 2. Then finally you raise her heartbeat and make her live, metamorphosis. So they've now done all the things people wanted to do. There's a story. I think that seeing this level creativity and thought bodes well for what we're going to see with the Big Lebowski and whatever game comes after the Big Lebowski from Dutch Pinball. They have modes for all the wheels now. Big Wheel Billion Shot. This is really cool. Planet Python, a tribute to Python. They said, since we love this game so much, we wanted to include a tribute mode for Python Angelo. The name we gave this mode was Planet Python because we thought it would be cool if there's a planet in the Pinbot universe named after its creator. So I think that this is, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I think it's pretty amazing that this game has taken on this other life, if you will. Do I regret selling my Bride of Pinbot? A little bit. I do. When watching this video, I really do. Space is my issue. So maybe one day down the road in the future, I will have endless space and lots of money, and I'll just buy what I want. And I'll buy a 2.0 equipped Bride of Pinbot, because this is just really a cool project. And I'm very excited to get to play one of these, hopefully at Expo. So check that out. If you're an owner of Bride of Pinbot, I think you have some decisions to make.
Check the email.
It's pretty absurd how bad I am at getting to the email nowadays with Coast to Coast Pinball, and I'm frankly surprised any of you still email me. But just know that I do read everything, and I reply to a good chunk of it, and then some portion of it makes the show, like we're going to do right now. So I just jump back to a point in the email, and we're just going to go with it. And away we go. All right, this is from Ryan in Colorado. Hey man, great meeting you at Pinburg. What an awesome tournament it was. I'd go back next month if they held it again. It seemed like you were really enjoying it too. I was. He says, the games all played amazingly well too. I went around checking out games that I previously thought I had disliked, only to discover that they were pretty fun when nicely tuned. Example, RoboCop. I love that you're now talking about competitive pinball, but make sure you occasionally remind your listeners that it isn't as intimidating as it sounds. I'm on a bit of a tirade lately against people who post things online like, I'm not that good. I probably only average around 120 million on Star Trek, which would literally be enough to win every league or tournament game I've ever been involved in on Star Trek, except the one time I played Trent Augustine. Everyone who ever played competitive pinball felt like they probably weren't good when they started, but almost everyone who's ever played in any of my leagues or tournaments always felt they did better than expected. So keep on doing what you're doing, playing, talking, living pinball. You're a great champion. Oh, now he's just being nice. So we don't need all the gushiness. So what Ryan says is a great point, because I have definitely expanded more into my pinball life, into the tournament scene, and I really like it. I love it, in fact. I will tell you this, the show is better for it, I think, because it gives the show more things to talk about. And there will be seasons of the year when we get around big tournaments like Pinburg or Papa or It Never Drains or whatever it might be, where I'm going to get more into that part of the hobby. I'm going to talk about it. Yes, I talked to a lot of people at Pinburg in groups that I played in who said to me, I can't believe how good I'm doing. I didn't think I was that good, and I'm sitting in A right now, or I just, I'm at the very top of B, or whatever it might be. A lot of people, when they first go to a large tournament where you're pulling in people from all around a large area, like the whole country or the world, have no idea. They might be, good in their local scene, but they think, oh, it's just my little local scene. Well, hey, man, you might be really good. You don't know. So there's definitely some of that. I'm trying to think of any games that I thought I disliked and then discovered that were pretty fun. I kind of had the opposite effect. I kept playing games where I thought to myself, oh, I like this game. I got this game. Like Haunted House, which I did not have that game, and I was horrible at that game. Fathom. I love Fathom. Cool game. Played it terribly in the tournament. And then played it even worse later with Adam and Escher Lefkoff. Escher just schooled me, like he tends to do. There were a few like that. You know what game made me happy was Party Zone. Because I used to own a Party Zone. So when our DMD game and our bank went out of commission, they moved us to Party Zone. And I was right at home and won the 3 points on Party Zone. That was nice. I like that. I'm sure there were some surprise games for me. There was just so much. You play so many machines in such a short period of time that some of them got a little blurry to me. Oh, I tell you, World Cup, and I don't mean World Cup soccer. I mean the old Williams World Cup. It's sort of like from the era of Grand Prix, I believe, but it's got these weird little saucers near the edges, the top edges of both flippers, which then pass the ball like it's a soccer ball pass. I heard so many people just ripping that game. Anytime I'd be near it, I'd be like, oh, stupid World Cup. I did good. I liked that game. So I felt like I was swimming upstream against all the hate on World Cup. But what Ryan says is true. Get out and try it. I've had emails to this show from people who say, I don't really like all the competitive talk. It's not my scene. I just like to tinker on my games and play my games. And I don't care about, what Josh Sharp does. I've had those emails, and that's fine. You're not going to like it all. But I would say go out and try, even in a league situation where it's not so much about a big tournament where there's money on the line, just playing with other people where you actually have to really concentrate and make it mean something. That's what I like about tournaments and leagues, is that I have to focus. I have to really dial it in. It's sort of, to me, the difference between going out and shooting hoops in the park by myself or playing a pickup game with people I don't know. All of a sudden, everything sort of matters. That's basketball talk for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about. All right, got an email here from Chris. Hi, Nate. I was wondering why there aren't any pinball kits on the market for purchase. It seems to me that a pinball kit could work for a number of reasons. First, a lot of people in the hobby enjoy the tinkering and maintenance aspect almost as much as the playing. Second, it may be a way for smaller startups such as Spooky to ramp up production faster. A lot of the slower and more tedious assembly tasks may be passed off to the customer. Third, less time on the production line hopefully would lead to a lower price point. Maybe a $2,000 to $3,000 pin is possible if the customer has to put it together. This would probably work best for non-licensed themes where the production run could be open-ended and not limited by the timetable of a contract. I also think there would be a great opportunity for upgrades, mods, alternate playfields, art, and other optional markups that could customize your initial order or be bought at a later time. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the possibilities of a pinball kit. Well, it's funny because it kind of ties back into what we were just talking about with Wrath of Olympus. That was sort of, in a way, a kit, albeit a very complex and very big kit with lots of parts. I think it's possible. I think if you took a game like, something like old school, like, I don't know, like Harlem Globetrotters, except not Harlem Globetrotters, something non-licensed, like you said. But if you took something kind of basic like that, single level, no ramps, and everything was pre-drilled on the playfield, sure, I think a kit could be a lot of fun, because you're right. There is that group of us out there that really like the aspect of, like, turning wrenches and tightening bolts. Not me so much, but if I could buy a really cool, early solid state style game, or even like a game based off an old EM but done with the solid state, computer driving it, and could build that at home and could build it for $2,500, $3,000, maybe if it's fun. Like, remember, that's my always thing. We talk about building simpler games and doing other ideas. It's got to be fun. I think one of the other problems, and I'm not an expert at this, but with a kit, you would need to be very exacting in what you do. If the geometry of what you laid down was off, you could be in for some trouble. And I guess there'd be lots of ways to prevent that with pre-drilling and pre-routing holes and everything being sort of like there for you, and you just do all the assembly. I think it's a pretty good idea myself. I think it's not a bad idea at all. I'm not sure who would be the best to do that, though. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that again. I like the idea. I need to think about that and talk with some people who are smarter than I am and try and form some better opinions. That's the show. That's episode 184. It's over. It's late. It's 2 in the morning here in New York City, and I have an 11 a.m. appointment. So I got time, but I need to end it now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the emails. I'm out all week here in New York. I'm going to try and play some pinball. Some great spots to play pinball in and around where I'm at. I kind of feel like we might go on a little run of shows this week. Vacations and Replay FX got in the way. I think this might be a good week for Coast to Coast Pinball. And I certainly look forward to joining you, friendly listener, on episode 185 as soon as we can get to it. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.